On today's Tech Help for Churches, social media strategy. Welcome everyone to another episode of Tech Help for Churches. I am your host, Paul Allen Clifford. Hey, join the conversation. Drop me a line, paul@trinitydigitalmedia.com, or a voicemail, 1-877-763-3246, or you can interact with me during the live show. This show records every Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, or 3 p.m. UTC, Universal Time, which, if I do the math, I wake up about 1 o'clock UTC. So that's, I kind of wonder why I gear my day around this Eastern Time stuff, because it doesn't make any sense to start 8 hours into the day or 9 hours into the day. It just doesn't make any sense. So anyway, you can also reach me over at Twitter. I'm at Paul Allen Cliff, PaulAlanclif. So let's get started with today's topic. Social media strategy. Now, some people just do social media and they really don't have the strategy. But I think that is something that is quite a mistake. So let's talk about some elements of a strategy and how to implement them. So first off, there's an old story about someone who would shoot a bow and arrow, and wherever the arrow landed, he'd draw a target around it. And his friend said, "What are you doing? Because that seems problematic." He said, "Well, I had never missed this way." But that's the point. You can never get better if you never know what you're trying to hit. So let's start with who. Who are you trying to hit? So what I mean by that, we're not literally trying to hit anyone. We're trying to reach certain people. So are you trying to reach young families? Are you trying to reach senior adults? Are you trying to reach children or teens or people that are single? There are a lot of demographics that you can try and reach. And I don't think that you should think as much about race or socioeconomic status, except in how that helps you to reach those people. I don't want you to think, well, I'm trying to reach everyone. Yes, of course everyone's trying to reach everyone. That makes perfect sense. But when you look at television, it's designed for the vast swath of people, look at all the junk on television that you think, oh man, this is just bad. It's not good at all. I don't know what they were thinking. Well, that is a result of trying to please everybody. In trying to please everybody, you end up not pleasing anybody. Back to my analogy about the radio station. If you have a radio station that tries to please everyone with reggae, pop, rock, rap, Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, Hindu music, maybe some Tejano mixed in, maybe even some Native American stuff, that might be a curiosity, but you're not really reaching everybody. You're excluding so many people because there's so much that each person doesn't enjoy. So I think specifics are fine, and it's not that you're trying to exclude, it's that you're trying to include as many as you can, and when other people come along, that's great, that's bonus, that's an additional thing. So first off, who are you trying to reach? And I want you to think specifically. So instead of saying, well, I'm trying to reach adults, yeah, good, that doesn't help. I want you to be more specific. Are they college-educated adults? Are they lower-income adults? Are they young lower-income adults? Maybe they're lower-income adults that are under 40 that have children. Oh, now we can get specific. We can deal with the needs that that population has versus upper income retired adults who have totally different needs, totally different desires, and there's nothing wrong with each group. It's just you talk to people differently based on who they are. It's not, you're not talking down to them, you're just trying to help them differently. I guess that's the best way to think of it. So one, who are you talking to? Secondly, what are you saying? So when you are targeting these people, think of them as people, because each person, each number in your list of likes, followers, etc., that's a person. And that person really, really matters. So if that person really, really matters, there is a certain core set of needs that that person has, and a like a set of things that will reach them more effectively. So, for example, going back to our lower income families, they would love to have better ways to raise their children. Who that is a parent wouldn't love to have a better way to raise their children? Maybe activities that they could do for free or not very much money that would help engage their children and raise them the best way that they could. So you might have your children's pastor create such a list, and every week put that on your Twitter stream or your Facebook page. What you do will show who you're trying to reach, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I don't want you to think, oh, well, this is a very good article about retirement in the 21st century. I think that it will absolutely be helpful to people that are just out of college. Do you see the problem? No, it won't be very helpful to people that are just out of college. Most people that are just out of college think, I'm going to retire like in a bazillion years. I don't have to worry about that at all. Now, whether they're right or not, that's something totally different. But I think that it's what they feel their needs are. We call these felt needs. What they feel their needs are versus what they actually are. Okay, so who are you trying to reach? What do you say to them? When do you say it? That really matters too, because some social networks like Twitter, like Facebook, are very transitive in nature. So if you're reaching out to people when they're at work, there's a good chance they're not seeing what you're doing. If you're reaching out to them on the weekends and at night, you might have better luck. In fact, there are tools that will tell you when your audience, the people who have liked your Facebook page, the people who have followed you on Twitter, etc., when they will be more likely to engage, and you should engage at that time. So we've talked about who, what, when, where. Where matters too, because as you're choosing your social network, it could be that if you're looking for retired people, they're less likely to be on LinkedIn, which is a professional business network. If you're looking for middle-aged professional men, they're probably much more likely to be on LinkedIn. So what social network you choose, the where, really matters in your social network strategy. And how. Now, this is something that Christians get wrong all the time. I want you to look at the ministry of Jesus. I want you to look at it specifically as he's interacting with people that do not believe in him, that have a possibility of believing in him, as opposed to the people that do not believe in him and are his most vocal critics. That's two different groups. Do not make the mistake of thinking that a religious person that is on their high horse and they're proud and they're self-righteous will interact the same way as someone who is broken and lost and knows it. Right? So how you interact with what group really matters. Someone who is speaking with you intellectually might want some intellectual back and forth. But someone who says, my parents died when I was 3 years old, even though they might say they want answers, what they might really want is just love and acceptance. They might want someone to say, that was horrible. I hate that. That was not God's plan from the beginning to have you an orphan when you were that young. It was horrible, and just the thought makes me tear up. And right now you might be watching this and you're thinking, well, he's quoting. No, just the thought of my children not having my wife and I just is horrible to me. So I can imagine how this would be horrible to someone who was in a similar situation. So we should interact with compassion and love for people that need compassion and love, and intellectually for people that need intellectual arguments. But recognize that telling people how horrible they are is useless. Let me say that again. It's useless. I never want to hear anyone say how horrible a person is. It is useless. In fact, it's worse than useless. It's harmful. People already know how their lives are screwed up. They already know the mistakes that they've made. Maybe they're hiding them, but they know it. Deep down, even if they won't admit it, they know it. So they don't need you to tell them how horrible they are, especially because they don't hear, oh, I hate how your life has turned out, let me help. They hear, I'm better than you. You see how that's different. So how you interact with the people in your sphere of influence really, really matters. So as you're designing your strategy, who are you going to interact with? How are you going to interact with them? Where are you going to interact with them? When are you going to interact with them? And what are you going to say? Those elements really, really matter. And this is a little something. You might have a preconceived notion of what will work. Doesn't matter what you think will work. What matters is what will work. Right? Right? If you think something's going to work and it doesn't work, then that's not helpful at all. What matters is what actually works. So, with that in mind, test. Make little changes and see what the results are. Now, don't do 25 tests in 1 week and think that you're an expert. No. Over a long period of time. So, the people that you're reaching, that you're actually reaching, do they respond more to questions than links? Do they respond more to videos than articles? Think of just all the broad brushes and then get it down very specifically. Do they get annoyed when you reach out to them once a week? Once a day? 3 times a day? a dozen times a day? So, and do they ignore you in the morning but really engage in the evening? Test all those things, because your assumptions don't matter. They don't, because they're probably wrong. I think someday I'm going to write a book that is entitled Counterintuitives, and it's going to be all about the things that we believe are absolutely true that aren't even a little bit. And I think this is a situation where you can test every little bit and see what works best, and you might be utterly surprised. I thought that I could reach out to this group using this method, but this other method that I would have never thought works phenomenally well. Then do that. I think that in the church in general, we should do that. We should do some experimenting. If you're thinking that a campfire meeting will work in the 21st century, time to do a little experimentation. In the 19th century, they worked phenomenally well. But in the 21st, not so much. So remember that we're not trying to do new things for the sake of doing new things. We're trying to find the most effective way to reach people, because people are what matter to God. Really, think about it. If people didn't matter to God, then why would He send His only Son to rescue us? If people didn't matter to God, then why is the entirety of human history hinged around the point of our rescue? People matter to God, and that should be your motivation, is to reach more people, love more people, interact with more people, not because you want numbers. No, but because you really want to get to heaven and have Jesus say, "Well done, my good and faithful servant," as opposed to, "Well done." You see, same words, and it's not that you will only get there if you do these things, but because we're saved by grace through faith. That's how we're saved. But don't you want to do the plans that God has for you? Don't you? I do. That's why I'm doing these webcasts. That's why 5 days a week at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. UTC, I'm on this camera, telling you the things that I've learned in my ministry, telling you the things that I think will help you go out and change eternity. Okay, so until next time, I want you to practice all these things. I want you to interact with me. Again, remember, oops. Okay, again, remember that you can email me, Paul at trinitydigitalmedia.com. Drop me a line, 1-877-763-3246. Okay, now I'm done, and now we'll go ahead and end. Until next time. By the way, tomorrow, creating church, avoiding defaults. See you then on churchtechcast.com.